Welcome to the news segment from the Roll for Crit podcast, a weekly podcast all about board gaming and tabletop games, released every Wednesday wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a new year, so Jonathan and I are starting out fresh, so we hope you enjoy the news we have to offer you for the week of January 3rd, 2022.
Ended the year with some real explosions of news, but starting off, things are a little bit quieter. People are taking a break, not quite as much going on. But we will begin by talking about, as the new year begins, some things come to an end. The Walking Dead miniatures game, published by Mantic, has been running since 2015, I think 2014 or 2015. Was a tactical miniatures game based on the Walking Dead comic books, in which you could play as people versus people, and also there were zombies that were getting in your way. And I think it was generally well received for fans of miniatures games and The Walking Dead. Mantic has announced that it is going to be coming to an end in 2022. They will no longer be publishing any Walking Dead miniatures games. Primarily, it sounds like because, quite frankly, the story just came to an end. They covered pretty much everything, it sounds like. Although, are the comics still running?
I was going to ask that. Like,
Yeah.
Where are the comics in?
Maybe they ended. I kind of thought that they never ended, but they seem to, in this blog post at least, they seem to feel that they have pretty much reached a point where they've done it. They've covered all the big plot lines. It's time to end. They don't say anything about, financial results or anything like that. They seem pretty positive, but while there's a couple of sets right now that are on sale, and they might do one more reprint, but essentially by March 31st, they said they will not be selling any Walking Dead stuff on their website. So what do you think? I'm trying to remember. I think we actually did play a little of this at a Gen Con or something once, but we're not miniatures game people.
And I'm also not as big on The Walking Dead, so it probably, if
so it's really hitting all the strong points for you.
Unfortunately, I feel like this is probably the eventual fate for most non-digital games. There, especially something like that. I mean, ignoring that, like I said, they cover everything in the story. There's a point when they have to stop printing some of these things usually, or they'll only print the things that are still relevant for a competitive scene. Like, that's why Magic, even though it makes new sets, they doesn't reprint every single card. And I mean, we've talked about it before with board games. Even like a game that was only a few years old might just disappear.
Well, here's my question. Why not? I kind of have some answers to this, but I'd like to hear what you think. Why not stop making new sets, but still continue to reprint the old ones? Why does it have to end and go away completely forever? Like a traditional board game, a non...
No, I hear what you're talking about. I guess I assumed that the way that they were printing all these still, and then they've always have new ones in the pipeline. Then when they're running out, they're like, okay, let's see. And maybe the sales are down so much that they're like, we're only selling, I don't have any numbers here, so I'm making it up, 10 sets now. It's not worth it anymore. No, we've saturated the market. Everyone who's going to play this probably has them.
So I guess, my larger question then, is it possible to... Is there ever the possibility of a game like that? It seems like when it comes to ongoing games, we'll call them, so not necessarily collectible, but anything that has new sets released periodically.
LCGs, pretty much every miniatures game.
Do they
or miniatures war game? I guess. I mean,
do they have to be always either completely dead or coming out with new stuff? Has there ever been an example of a game like this that said, well, we're not going to be making any more new stuff, but all the Netrunner stuff that you like or whatever it is, you can buy that for the next 10 years or whatever?
I can't
I can't think of any either, but it
Warhammer.
Feels weird.
I don't know the I don't know how often it comes out, but maybe something like that might do it still falls under the new thing, but it's not like, Netrunner Magic that is like a new set every month versus, we make some new ones each year. Like there's a bigger time gap, might be more the thing. Yeah. Because the problem is once you get enough of them, people get bored and they're like, I found the meta.
Yeah.
Because most of these ongoing games, Jonathan, are competitive.
Right.
And when they get competitive, then you just find whatever the best thing is and you sort of just solve it. That's why they keep adding new things. Plus, of course, there's, keep adding new things. People keep buying the FOMO, so to speak,
Mhm.
thing going on that helps.
I guess it
But
comes down to, like, if it's successful enough to sell, then it's successful enough to keep making new products,
right.
and if
That's
it's
why
not, then it's not.
I do feel part of this is
It
because I
has to be
assume,
sales dwindling.
yes. And I mean, the story definitely doesn't help. Not that it's bad, but I mean, like, compared to, at least from my understanding, you can tell me if I'm wrong with The Walking Dead. Some of the other Mantic, yeah, they did Hellboy
Mhm.
and like, and I think of those, I'm like, there's a lot of weird things you can go into. Like, I'm sure you can even at least in Hellboy, just knowing because it's just cryptos and stuff like that. You may like, guess what? There never really was a Mothman episode. Now I'm gonna get a bunch of you telling me there was, but like, you can make a miniature for that. There's how creative can you be? I don't think The Walking Dead you can, like Resident Evil, just make a giant, alligator or something.
Right, there's just one kind of zombie in The Walking Dead, there's not like
If anything, I'm guessing once again, don't really know the Walking Dead miniatures game. A lot more comes from the people. Like, oh wait, actually, I think I remember. Wasn't the zombies all NPCs?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I'm sure there were variants and alternate modes, but
Right.
yeah, I think the primary mode was people fought each other and zombies were just on the sidelines.
So a lot of it is the characters
And the
and,
locations, I think, the settings.
of course, the buildings. And I don't know how. Once again, don't know the Walking Dead lore. I don't know how much you can go with that. Not Mantic, but the other company that does a lot of miniatures, but they did
Modifius?
Modifius. Thank you. Skyrim and Fallout. I think you can come up with some NCR units. You can make up Caesar Legion characters and stuff a bit more. I
Yeah,
I don't know how much leeway. Oh, and that's of course, it's who's holding the licensing. How much
right.
will they allow you to do that?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a lot of factors involved, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I think overall it's probably not a sign of, as you said, the game was well received. It's more of like, yeah, we think most people have it. It's not worth it right now. And I wouldn't be surprised in this kind of situation that, like, let's say a few years, we get The Walking Dead 3031, crazy spin-off, and they're like, you know what? This is popular again. Guess what? Minis
Or
for
they're
that.
like in a year on Kickstarter, we're rebooting the whole line, and now you can buy it all from scratch with slightly different rules and paint jobs.
Oh, that's another thing, but I would be that's risky if you don't have a game balancing issue reason for it.
Yeah, that's just me being cynical.
Oh, I know, and I can't argue with it because it's not like we haven't seen it happen again and again and again.
But at any rate, if you have any interest in the Walking Dead miniatures game, now is the time. Go buy this stuff.
I will say on the I guess this is, I don't know if this is a negative or positive view because it's ending, like, now you can complete the collection. That's why, like, with my Netrunner, I'm like, it's done. I have
Yeah,
every card.
yeah. Except for that Project Nisei.
They're not it's not like the official, so I don't have to worry nearly as much. And plus, I think all those are print and play, so I'm not, once again, not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think they do. Well, I think they print them and will sell them to you in a
I
box.
probably would still do that because I don't have a good printer, but
Yeah, yeah, I agree. My print, well, yeah, my printer's an old one you gave me. That's how bad my printer is. I don't even have my own. Anyway, so that's The Walking Dead. Go check it out. Go buy it, or let us know if you're gonna miss it. It's not because, like I said, that's not one that's quite in our wheelhouse, either of us. But still interesting to note. Next story is a weird one. There's a guy named Ian Livingstone, but from now on, you're going to have to refer to him as Sir Ian Livingstone. He is the co founder of Games Workshop, as well as the Fighting Fantasy series, which he founded and wrote alongside Steve Jackson. The two of them were actually buddies. I think they lived together for a while and worked together in the game industry for many years. So he had a big hand in those series. And then he later went on to work in video games. He actually worked with IDOS or ADOS. I don't know how you say it. Coming up with or helping them put out franchises like Tomb Raider and Hitman also. So he's had a big gaming career. And this year in 2022, the Queen knighted him. He has been knighted as part of the 2022 New Year honors, they call them over in the UK. And according to Wikipedia, the reason given is Ian Livingstone, quote, for services to the online gaming industry, which just shows you how valuable and meaningful a knighthood is in the year 2022. No disrespect to Ian Livingstone, but it is kind of funny that we've gone from like, you must service the king and be willing to die in battle to, oh, you made some fun games for us. Cool. I don't know. This is just kind of a funny, weird story about a guy who's been knighted. Maybe the only game designer who is a knight, you know? So that's and also some interesting history. I didn't know all this, that all the things that he had done, and that he was close with Steve Jackson and all that. But it's kind of a weird thing to uncover. He is 72 years old, Ian Livingstone. So he's lived long enough deserve to become a knight, I say. What do you think? Any are you proud? Should more game designers become knights? What is there a qualification? Do you have to be British, I assume, to become a knight? Because I mean, he is British, but I'm
I
just
th-
wondering.
I don't know about that. Probably, but I think obviously the first step is you have to be knighted in an RPG game first.
Hmm.
You have to
Hmm.
like level up your knighthood.
Well, he had a real leg up in that field, writing some of his own.
hmm But then he's probably going to be part of the secret people who are knighted. This is above the sirs. These are people who are knighted by the queen in the queen's RPG game. It's a
Wow.
very exclusive game. If you get an invite, it's amazing. I know I'm
She
breaking the
GMs
story here.
the
Oh yeah,
game.
why do you think she's still alive? She's a lich. She has the power.
Wow. All right. Yeah. I hope no no listeners in the UK are offended right now.
It occurred to me. I thought of something that lives forever, and lich was first came to mind. And now I'm like, wait, that's an evil thing. She's an eternal. No,
I
that's
don't
Marvel thing.
I don't think they actually like the queen over there. Do they? Do they like the queen? I don't think they care about the queen actually.
I think we like the queen as a meme
Yeah. Yeah, no, who really? Yeah, the royal
and the
family.
corgis.
I think the people in the U.S. like the royal family way more than anyone actually living
If
there.
that last wedding was viewership was to be believed.
Yeah, yeah. So I've never. I'm sort of curious, actually. I've never tried. Of course, we've played stuff from Games Workshop in modern day, but I've never experienced anything from this Fighting Fantasy series, which is their single player RPG books, kind of like the things that our viewer Falcon Ash K sent in, the micro chapbooks, but they're from, they started back in the 80s. And that's kind of cool. I'm kind of curious now to see what they're like and how they differentiate from other modern RPGs. Kind of a cool retro look to them. Anyway, so go ahead and check that out in honor of Sir Ian Livingstone. You can check out Fighting Fantasy or play some Hitman. I don't know.
Did you
Do it.
just look at what he's currently doing? The list there. So
No,
it's
what's
like
he currently doing?
Chairman at Suman Group PLC, a partner at the Hero Capital, non-executive director of the National Citizen Service, and non-executive director Aspirational Academies Trust, non-executive director of the Foundation of Educational Development, non-executive director Creative of UK, member of the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and president of the BGI.
Are
Like,
you? Have you done one of those commercials where you have to read all the symptoms at the end? Because that was good.
just
Uh,
that is just so much stuff. I don't know how much it actually means anything. Like if he's just there, like, could you just sit on our board and be like, yeah, whatever. Just
yeah, that might be it at this point. That I guess just Games Workshop and Fighting Fantasy were successful enough. He seems like a guy who's like kind of had his career not early, but a while ago, and now he's just sort of sitting on boards and doing his thing. I guess. I mean, probably more so than anything he did for tabletop games. His work with video games is probably what made him more money, I would guess. I think that's probably
it all depends on the deals. Like the video game might have
yeah.
made more money, but if he got a really bad deal out of it.
Hey, he recently wrote a fighting fantasy book in 2019, so he's still doing it. He's still having fun in that
That's
world.
what he does when he's actually at these board meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're talking about, I don't know, the new academic test in the UK. Meanwhile, he's like, if I make this dragon being able to shoot sword breath,
Man, don't you hate it when you wake up with sword breath?
oh, it's the worst.
All right. So again, interesting story. We'll see who gets knighted. I was trying to look at the list to see if anyone else interesting was knighted alongside him, but I hadn't heard of any of these people. So I have nothing interesting to share on that front. We do have back to more regularized gaming news, a couple of gaming announcements based on licensed properties that I thought maybe we'd have something to say about. The first one is a new Star Wars retheme of Love Letter. Love Letter, the classic deduction game where you are trying to guess people's cards and eliminate them, etc., or have the highest numbered card in hand. One of the kind of the original micro game. Not that many cards in it. This new one is called Jabba's Palace. So similar idea, but it takes place in Jabba's Palace from Return of the Jedi, and it's got Star Wars art. And the other one is Dark Souls, a new role playing game based on the Dark Souls series. We don't know anything about this. They've just announced it. It's from Steamforged Games, so same people who did the board game. I don't know if they've done another RPG. Is this their first role playing game? I think it is. But there's a newsletter you can sign up for, and they'll be announcing more information. That's, I assume, in the future. Either of these catch your fancy? Once again, neither of us are Dark Souls people, but uh, of the two, or any thoughts on either of them?
Um, I I do tend to like for lack of a better term, love letter reskins, but because I feel like they're not just reskins,
Hmm.
they tend to have a bit more, like, it's not big, but enough of a little difference to make you feel better if you have both, original love letter because you want to have the classic and whichever title, be it Star Wars, the Batman, Hobbit, and feel like, oh, I can break out this one. Like, I know the Lovecraft one in particular had two different decks because you actually like swap, and I
Yeah.
found that to be very interesting. So weirdly enough, I feel Love Letter hasn't. I'm always curious when I hear about a new love letter like this, even if it's not like a property I'm nearly as invested in.
Yeah,
So,
and they've also, I think, I like that they realized that Love Letter is not the most marketable title. So it used to be like Batman Love Letter. Now it's just called. It just says Jabba's Palace on the box. That's all it says. But yeah, the twist in this one I actually think is pretty interesting. So, like I said, traditionally in Love Letter, the win condition is to be the last one standing or have the highest numbered card at the end. And Jabba's Palace has agenda cards. So, for example, the goal can change. So, in this version, there's different types of cards. So, they say some of them are palace or rebel cards. And one of the agendas might be have the most rebel cards in your play area at the end of the game. So, you're not going to just be thinking about which cards to play to eliminate someone, but also maybe you specifically want to play a rebel card if that's going to help you win. I think that's a kind of there's like also some cards that will like let you take someone else's card from their play area, for example. I do like when they mix things up like that, and it does seem like it'll have a different feel to it. It's not just now you can look at Boba Fett on a card,
mhm.
which is cool. So I'm actually pretty excited for that. Dark Souls, I don't have I have no almost no
Yeah,
experience with it, so I can't say like what I would want from it. But it
I,
does seem
I
like well suited to an RPG.
yeah, I do want to say, first of all, they do have another RPG which I want to play now. Definitely more than Dark. It's called Animal Adventures, and it looks like you play as
Oh.
cats and dogs, and it
Okay, I
looks
do know that one.
adorable. But what I really like about this idea with because once again, and I know a little bit Dark Souls, so I can guess, but then I'm like, okay, if they do Dark Souls, they've also got Horizon Zero Dawn, Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, which I do think could
Mm,
make some really good RPGs. Devil May Cry, probably not as much. I feel like that's a bit more centered on one person or hero-ish kind of thing. But Horizon has a great world that I think would be fun to explore. Resident Evil could easily be made into, I think, a horror RPG when you play as maybe people just trying to survive, maybe Raccoon City. like get out of there, or maybe you have to deal with Los Plagos or something. Like I can easily see that working. And Monster Hunter pretty much is an RPG. So,
Yeah, they also have Nino Kuni, which is
oh
a straight
right.
up RPG. So
So
yeah,
like I guess part of it is the excitement that they could do other things. I would love to see not dark the it's in the Dark Souls family, but
oh, Bloodborne.
yeah, but I think that's Simon who
Oh
has
yeah,
that one.
that
And obviously, I do think this is a great not push product to have in addition for Steamforge, because one of the reasons I brought a while, on my list of favorites is Cthulhu Wars, is because I feel like those minis are so great to you can like in something that's ubiquitous. Anytime you bring up a Lovecraft creature, well, I've got a whole set for whatever we need. And then
mhm.
this with the RPG, well, they already make the game,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
it
that's
makes sense. I mean, if you have that property, also an RPG is so much, especially right now, less of a headache to actually produce it, and cheaper to produce than manufacturing all that plastic and everything, and it helps
and
sell the games too.
right, and it well in particular because they already have a game made. Granted, now we're gonna have to run into Kickstarter exclusive and all that fun stuff, but if it feel buying the miniatures when there's a game attached to it, or let's say a reasonable game, it feels if it's more of a convincing purchase.
Yeah.
You don't. It's less. There's less consumer guilt
Yeah.
in there. So that can be like, great, I can play this RPG, and for non-RPG mood, we can still try out this game. Now, like I said, we were not fans of when we played the Dark Souls board game,
Right.
which is
I think
but
most people weren't.
I but we like the boss battle system,
Mhm.
which I will say I feel the Monster Hunter game is really just going to be more that.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of bypass. It was like we like this one thing, and then we finally are getting a game that's okay. We'll just do that one thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. Steamforge seems to be very good at getting these types of licenses. They've obviously got a relationship with Capcom. But they seem to go. I guess Nino Kuni is a little different, but they tend to go towards more of like the hardcore kind of M-rated action games. I mean,
Uh,
Monster Hunter's not M-rated, but it's more,
yeah, the way I view it
adult.
is the heavy following AAA games that
Yeah.
seem to be the target, which is I think makes sense for
Although kind of
miniatures.
they're kind of like in a weird camp where they're huge, but they're also not so huge. Like Dark Souls is an extremely popular franchise, but it's not like Mario or something like that. It still sort of
Yeah,
feels
well,
niche.
I think the idea it's the big huge games that don't have a lot of, for lack of a better term, toys.
Right.
Like Resident Evil probably does, but I definitely Horizon Zero. You know,
Well,
um,
that one is just big all around. Yeah, that's pretty big. I don't
Horizon
know.
Zero.
Yeah, that's I
Yeah,
mean it's new, but I feel like that's
right. But I mean, like,
mainstream, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, these are still pretty mainstream, but they're
They
like I
are.
said, the difference is even the Devil May Cry. They only focused on, at least from what I can tell, the newest game. There isn't
Mm,
like there have been probably. I mean, I'm sure you can get it like they've made like a ton of Dante figures from the previous games, but this is like let's bring in the board gaming while it's still hot and new.
right. Yeah, I guess it's really just Monster Hunter and Dark Souls are ones I'm thinking of that are like they're mainstream and popular, but they're also like they have such a high barrier to entry that not that many the people who are into them are really into them. But like I feel like there's a lot of people who are like, no, I don't play those games. That's too like hard.
Well, I
uh,
mean, I don't. One of the reasons Worlds was big because they really
right.
brought down the bar to entry.
But I think they did compared to the other ones in the series, but not exactly compared to even Horizon Zero Dawn is much easier onboarding process, I think, than
I
Monster Hunter.
I don't
I
know. I
still
feel
feel
like it
like
still
in
has a
Monster
really high
Hunter.
Steam count, like of people playing Monster Hunter.
Oh no, I'm not saying there's not a lot of people playing it, but I just think it's compared to most games, like you still probably want to look up Wikipedia entries while you're playing it. At least I did. But maybe I think you've played it so much you have all these things internalized, and I don't. Anyway, this is not a video game
Yeah.
podcast.
No, that's
But
for our audio expansion.
that's right. So Dark Souls RPG, who knows, possibly coming sometime this year, but not much word on it yet. And Jabba's Palace definitely coming sometime this year. I shouldn't say definitely because nothing's certain at this point. Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, or if you really like us, you can support us on Patreon. Become a high roller today for exclusive bonus content. We also have a podcast now. You can check that out at rollforcrit.com/podcast. Weekly episodes with special guests you definitely want to listen to.